Now that you know the complete path of skills that you need to become a job-ready and productive developer, the next logical question you may have is, okay, I know what to learn. The next question is, how do I learn it? Where do I learn it from? And in this video, I'm going to explain the concept about how to go about effectively learning these skills. So that's the presentation we're going to have today. So how do you really go about learning this really seemingly alien skill of writing code, which is very weird, and then talking to a computer? So the answer to the question is, the way you learn how to code is exactly the way you learn any particular skill. Now, when you were a child, you copied your parents, you copied your siblings, you copied what you saw, and that is the way you acquired skill. So coding is actually no different. Just to give you a solid example, when a lot of authors who are trying to become authors like somebody else, they aspire to become like, they actually hand copy the writings of the author they want to become like, they aspire to be like. So when they hand copy like a machine, like a robot, their writings, they actually subconsciously ingest the thought processes, the writing style of the big author they want to become like. That's the exact way you're going to learn how to code. That's the exact way I learned how to code. That's the exact way I learned how to do graphic design. So what I would do is, when I wanted to learn how to code, when I would watch a particular video, a tutorial video, I would actually copy and follow along the code, the program that the video was showing me. So when I teach at I Love Coding, I will give you two things. I will give you the baseline background knowledge, but then I will show you a practical example on how to apply that knowledge. So when I'm showing you those examples, it's your job. That's my instruction to you, that you copy along and follow along what I'm telling you, what I'm teaching you. So when you actually just mindlessly copy, you're going to subconsciously digest and understand the concepts. And even when you're copying, you're going to find some mistakes that you're making, and that's going to internalize the concepts even further. So the first rule, even though it's very simple, is to copy and follow along, just like any skill is acquired by copying. The second thing, which is very important, and is the reason why a lot of people struggle, is that they have something called a shiny object syndrome. What you need to do is ignore any media, any mainstream media, or any kind of information that's telling you, hey, learn jQuery or don't learn jQuery. You gotta learn these 5 things to become super genius and become job ready. All these blog articles, people who are writing, that's their business to write. That's how they make money. That's how the number one technique of journalism and news is that they show you something new, right? So when you see in the news, hey, something's new out there, you go out and look at that information. But any successful company is successful, or any successful individual is successful, even you are successful in certain areas, is because you stuck with the fundamentals, some baselines, and that worked for you. If you kept on chasing the new stuff, the shiny stuff, it wouldn't work for you. People would not progress. So ignore shiny objects. Ignore the tendency to chase after the new thing. It's not going to work for you. The next thing, which is kind of the same, goes along with the shiny object syndrome, is to stick with fundamentals first approach. What do I mean by that? What I really mean is, when you are learning how to code, there are certain concepts, there are a lot of small mini concepts that's going to show up, right? And when they show up, don't just graze through it. Try to understand the core concepts, and in I Love Coding training, actually give you the new concept in a fundamental way. So when you have a solid foundation, when you go at the workplace, when you're trying to make your programs, you're going to be much more efficient at making those programs because you have the solid foundation. If you think about any particular sport, let's say golfing, any kind of sport or mixed martial arts, what they do is they actually repeatedly practice the fundamental moves of whether it be golfing or whatever sport. They practice the moves, the fundamental moves again and again, so they never lose their foundation. Because all new techniques and skill is built on the foundation. So all these new libraries and frameworks and all these new stuff which is out there is just new temporarily. The foundation is never going to go away. So let's say Bootstrap framework is new. React.js is new. It's very hot. Vue.js is new. React.js is new. React Native is new. There's so many new stuff. But all this new stuff is actually built on top of the fundamentals of HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So actually I released a course on HTML and CSS like 4 years ago. And after 4 years, the fundamentals remained the same. And the course was doing pretty well. Unless I later released a version 2 just for better explanations. But the training and the concept remained the same because fundamentals tend to not change. So once you have a solid foundation, you focus on the fundamentals the way I teach you in I Love Coding, you're going to make your progress much more faster. Learning technique number 4. Quickly translate theory into real-world use cases. So one of the things about learning is so difficult, learning how to code is so difficult, is because they have this weird, difficult-looking, difficult-sounding words. Constructor, prototype, coercion, closures, right? All this weird sounding words that scare us. And the reason they scare us is because they look complicated, they sound complicated, but they're actually very simple if they are explained correctly to you. And a lot of times they are not explained correctly because the teacher who's trying to teach us, many a times, I'm just not happy to inform you, but many a times they don't even understand the concept themselves. Hence, they are not able to translate the knowledge to you. That's just sad, but that's true. I'm sorry to say that. So whenever you learn a new concept, you take that concept, you say, okay, the new concept is always going to be vague, right? So when you translate that vague concept into a practical use case, that's when the real learning happens. That's when you actually understand the concept, is when you apply. Let's say if you try to explain a child what walking is, like the child is like, I don't know. But if you show, hey, what I'm doing with this two feet, 2 legs, this is walking, you're like, okay, I know what walking is now. It's just when people move from one place to another with their 2 feet. That's walking, right? So, but if you just put it into a definition of a dictionary, it becomes weird, alien, and not human, okay? So that's the one of the key foundations. The way I teach at I Love Coding is I tell you the new concept because you need to learn the new concepts, but you translate that into a practical example. Learning technique number 5. That is that do not commit to memory anything that can be looked up in a book. And that is a quote by Einstein, and I live by it. And the thing is that there's so much to learn. I'm going to tell you just right now, even after 4 years or 3 years or 5 years or probably 7 years, you're still going to be learning coding because coding is a long journey. It keeps on happening, and you're going to be a developer, let's say in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, whatever your timeline is. You're going to become that developer. You're going to be professional. You're going to be proficient, but you're going to continue to learn. So it's not that when you are learning, you memorize all these concepts. Oh, what are arrays? What are functions? What are the 5 different properties that an array has and stuff like that? All this gibberish stuff, you're not going to memorize. You do not have to memorize. Professional developers are allowed to Google stuff and look up resources, re-look up their knowledge and refresh their knowledge on the job when they're doing it. So there's no requirement for you to memorize these things. The way it's going to be memorized is when you keep on doing it, when you keep on building these programs, it's going to automatically, the important stuff is going to automatically become habit, and the more less used stuff is going to automatically be something in the back of your head, and you can quickly Google it when the need comes. With that, I want to give you 3 full tests that there are certain tests that I'm going to give you that's going to determine if you're making the progress in the correct direction. So full test number 1 is, if you did not code, you did not learn. So a lot of times going to happen is when you watch my videos, you say, hey, oh yeah, I understand this. Like, it makes sense, piece of cake. But my thing is, if you did not copy my examples, what I showed you, then you have an illusion of learning. You actually did not learn. So back to the concept number one, I was copy example code. So when I show you certain code, it's your job to follow along and copy those examples. If you do not code those examples, then you merely have an illusion of learning and understanding. That knowledge, that understanding is going to quickly fade away and it's not going to serve you. So if you did not code, you did not learn. Full test number two is if you did not ship, you did not build. So there's a very famous quote by Steve Jobs. He said, great artists ship, or actually real artists ship. And what that really means is artist is somebody who creates, okay? A programmer is a creator, a graphic designer is a creator, an artist who draws is a creator, an author is a creator, an artist who acts on television or movies is an artist, right? So anybody who creates is an artist. And shipping, the concept of shipping means that when you launch something, so when you create your, let's say, your book or a blog or a program or a software or some painting, you have to launch it to the world. And if you did not launch it, if you did not ship it, then that means you never built it. It's in your lab. That's your experiment. So if you did not ship, if you did not launch your creations, if you did not launch your application, if you did not launch your code to the real world, to the GitHub and add it to your portfolio, that means you never built. So you have to make the emphasis on when you create something. It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to keep every new creation you make is going to be better, but you're going to keep on improving that. So if you did not ship it, that means you never built it. Okay? And full test number three is if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yourself. And that's by Einstein. And that is the concept that a lot of teachers in the coding world, and maybe you have had some good teachers and bad teachers of different subjects. We all have, right? Let's be honest. We have had good teachers. We have had bad teachers throughout our life. And the good teachers have the ability to make things, explain us things in a simple manner that's digestible for us. And the reason they're able to do that is because they actually have a core understanding of that particular concept. So it's my job to explain to you things simply. And if I did not explain it simply, that means that I did not do my job. I myself do not understand the concept myself. And it's then your job is to understand that concept on a clear manner so that you are able to explain it. And if you're able to explain that concept, whatever the new concepts you're going to learn in programming, if you can explain it, that means you understand it. If you cannot explain it, that means you don't understand it clearly enough. And that's very important for you because when you go to your interviews, you're going to be asked these questions like, what is a call stack? And that's it, point blank. The interviewer is going to just ask you a point blank question. What is a call stack? How does asynchronous functions work in JavaScript? What are promises? Just like these point blank questions that you're thinking right now, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to explain these things to you in a simple manner. And you will have to practice to answer these things in a simple manner so you are interview ready. And I'm going to help you with that. So that's my 3 full test that's going to help you towards the direction of learning things correctly so you become job ready, interview ready, resume ready, portfolio ready. That's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to talk to you in the next.